Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Dagger Test Extreme. I am your host, Nightshade the Grand Kitty Master, and I demand you all talk about my new favorite show, Outlander! And by favorite, I mean it had a kitty in it one time.
That's true!
Take it away, human servants.
That's true! There was a cat.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to remember when. Anyway, okay.
So if you didn't know, we're talking about Outlander.
Yeah! Hi guys! We're back!
We're back. It's been how many months? 2?
20,000.
3?
I don't remember.
Year. It's been a while since we watched. What was the last show we reviewed? Hunter.
Yeah, that was it. Hunter.
That was what? September?
I don't know.
October?
It's been a while.
It was before Thanksgiving.
And it's not that we haven't watched shows after that. It's just like we never thought to record our reviews
opinions or thoughts or any of that stuff.
Reactions. And this is a show that actually gained even more traction once it got on Netflix. Just like Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, what was it on before?
Oh, I mean, it's still on Stars.
Oh, that's right.
But
it's on Stars.
But Netflix got like, partial rights to it. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't know how that.
No,
we could look it up, but it's
like
we're here to talk
behind.
about Outlander, not about the business of Netflix, the failing streaming company.
Yeah, even though it gets shows still popular, but whatever.
Yeah, it's a whole other. Like I said, that's another conversation for another day.
Yes.
So I'm actually going to default to you. Wait, we didn't introduce ourselves.
Oh yeah. Hi, I'm the struggling alto.
I'm Zaggard. You guys know me. This is my channel. But you guys know Claire already.
Yes, I'm Claire, which is also the name of the protagonist in the show.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I look like her right now a little, because I'm really pale, and I have like the black, semi-curly hair. I'm cosplaying really badly. Really, really badly. Because I'm not even wearing a period-accurate dress. Anyway, so this show...
I'm going to default to her for this, by the way.
For those of you who don't know, okay, yeah, this show came out, I swear, I was like 18 years old when this show came out. It came out a long time ago.
So like 20 or 12 years ago.
Something like that, because it's like a lot of shows on Netflix and HBO where it takes a long time for a season to come out because it's very high budget, very high, it's very like quality style, or it's very quality over quantity. His episodes are really long. They're like an hour, 55 minutes to an hour.
These are Game of Thrones episodes.
These are Game of Thrones episodes long. Honestly, like it's the Game of Thrones of Stars. Yeah, foreshadowing in a good way and a bad way. But this show came out a long time ago, and I discovered it when it came on Netflix about like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 4 or 3. And I watched it all the way through, and I've now caught up with all the episodes that have aired. And then I was watching the latest season, and Shane Zaggard was like, "Hey, what are you watching?" Good storytelling. I'm doing great with this. But he was like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just a show called Outlander, where a girl accidentally travels back in time to the 1700s." And he's like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And then like we were trying to figure out a show to watch, and I really wanted to watch a show that I really loved and wanted to. I don't know. Like we watched
So we watched Orphan Black.
So we watched Orphan Black, but then later I was like, I was like, I kind of want to show you Outlander because it's like kind of insane, the show, and kind of controversial at times.
Really is
it's kind of insane. So I was curious what he would think of it. And there's just so many amazing moments in the show. Like I love this show. You can bleep that out because of the new YouTube rules.
I think it's been more than 8 seconds, but I'll still bleep it out.
You can still bleep it out. I freaking love this show. And even though it's not like, it doesn't check all the boxes that you love, of shows you would love, it checks enough that I wanted to show him and also maybe just try something new with you.
And guys, if you really want to watch a new show, my recommendation is to watch it because it has dildos.
Yeah. There's a scene with them in season 2, not even the season we're talking about, and it's for like 2 seconds.
No, but
anyway, it is a very sexual show, if that's what you mean. There's a lot of sex in it.
Yeah, what I call this show is the female Game of Thrones, and that's not a negative thing.
No.
But 1, it's based on a book written by a woman, right?
Yeah.
And 2 is it's very similar to Game of Thrones in the kind of style that they go for, sort of, with the show.
They try to go pretty realistic and gruesome.
Yeah.
With the way things are portrayed.
It's not
accurate, I guess, to the time. I wasn't there.
It's not like Game of Thrones where it's a fantasy world, and it is harder to get into it. Like that first season of Game of Thrones is just so good that everybody who watched that first season just got into it instantly. This one, it takes some time, and you gotta kind of get used to it.
I say so. Yeah, I mean, like, especially the pilot.
The pilot is way slower.
The pilot's definitely slower. It's very much like we're just setting up the world kind of thing. And then, in my opinion, it slowly gets better with each episode. I would say the first, 3 to 4 episodes slowly get better. And then once episode 5 hits, they get significantly better and more interesting. Not, consistently. There's some episodes here and there that aren't as, good as the one before. But it's just, in my opinion, the story just takes off ever from episode 5 and beyond. And it gets more crazy and more interesting.
Which episode is episode 5?
That's the one where she goes to, the British people find her with, the Dougals when they're on the road. And like, my lady, are you okay?
Oh.
And then they, request her to come back, even though she says that she's there for her own free will.
That episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that episode is definitely where it starts,
takes off.
It just, because up until that point, there's just a lot of she has this plan, but
she's trying to get back home.
Yeah, she's trying to get back to her time, but there's nothing she can really do, so it just feels like she's kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it adds a new element.
Yeah.
And it starts expanding the world because she starts off in this kind of secluded area, and then everything's kind of the same even when she starts adventuring out.
Yeah.
And then they get to that part. It just expands from one thing to 2 things. And then halfway through the episode, a certain character shows up.
Yeah.
I won't say who. And that character shows up, and you really get to learn about this character in that moment.
Yeah.
You don't learn everything, but you learn a good chunk.
Yeah. And even though this character is introduced in the first episode, it solidifies him, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it's more the more you get into this season, the more this is true, but it solidifies him as one of the best villains in television history. He is so evil in every way.
It's
really
and he knows he's evil
he knows he's not a good,
For those of you who've seen the show, you know exactly which character we're talking about.
We can talk about the character. Just not gonna spoil what he does.
I'd rather keep it
all right
hidden for now. I mean, we could bring it up later in this. Maybe when we start season 2 discussion But just as an introduction, the series is kind of hard to get into for the first 5 episodes. It's kind of slow.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of narration, which at first I'm like, oh, I like narration. But it was too much narration at first.
Yeah, which I did. I actually don't mind the narration, but you didn't. You weren't a huge fan.
I didn't mind it at first, but then it was every time there was an emotional impact, she narrated her exact emotions instead of just letting the actress portray them and having the audience try and figure it out. Because that is like a puzzle in itself when you see a person's face and you try and understand what emotions they're feeling. And even if you get it right away, it feels like you've solved the puzzle.
And it's not like they couldn't have just not had the narration. I mean, it's not like they didn't need it.
Yes.
Because I was just gonna say that the actress who plays Claire is so fantastic. She's so solid. It goes away after a while. There's not as much narration.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that made the show better as it went on. In those first 3 to 5 episodes, there would be a scene where she would hear something or she would learn something terrible or something bad would happen to her. And instead of it just being the character having a reaction it would be you would see that, and then all of a sudden she's in that moment, I felt disgust and anger. It's well, yeah, I got that from the actresses.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't say that, I felt this, but she was you were seeing what was going on in her head. Or sometimes, I guess.
There were 2 narrations where she directly says what she felt.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what really bothered me about it, because it didn't feel like the character was expressing themselves, but the writer was telling us. It was it forgot that it was a book. I mean, sorry, that it was a show and not a book. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why it felt a little weird. Yeah. But I didn't hate it. I was just I don't know how I feel about this. When you're trying on a new pair of clothes and you're not sure if they're really your thing. Yeah. That's how it kind of felt. But then I wore it or watched it for a bit, and it really started to grow on me. Like literally, I could feel myself like wanting to watch the episodes and be like, okay, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, because it is very unpredictable at times.
It's very unpredictable at times, and it is very Game of Thrones, but it's not as quick as Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones, the first thing that happens in Game of Thrones is someone dies, and one of the main characters has to go and join the king, which he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
And it immediately is this political intrigue. Whereas her story is, I want to go back to my time. So she's just trying to escape for a while.
Yeah.
And then at episode 5, a character shows up, and we're just gonna say his name now.
Oh, we are just gonna say his name.
Yeah. For anybody who hasn't watched the show, this is your point to stop the video and go start watching it. Like go now. Go now. Go watch the show. Don't watch the rest of this video. If you have
watch the rest of the video.
No.
We want to get them to watch it. We want
pause the video.
Oh my God.
Watch at least the first episode, then come back here. But all of you fellow
But no,
fans,
it'll get better after episode 1.
Yeah, it'll get better.
Yeah. This is chaotic, but yes, this is it. The character is Captain
Blackjack Randall. Wait, what? God damn it.
Captain Blackjack Randall. Yeah. He's
Come here, Peter Pan.
He's from the British Army. He's a captain in the British Army. Yeah. And he's not a great guy.
And remember, this show is based on real history.
Yeah.
It's loosely inspired.
Yeah, I don't think there was actually a Blackjack Randall.
I think there might have been a Blackjack
Maybe.
Randall. But he definitely, we don't know
any, what actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not record of probably most of the stuff in the show that happens.
Yeah, they definitely take some creative liberties for the book.
Yeah. Obviously the history of the show is real, the major wars and all that.
Yeah, Jacobite rebellion.
Yeah.
How British monarchy was.
Exactly.
Prince Charlie not being in Scotland right now because the king was overthrown and there's a whole political fight there. Mm-hmm. And of course, France and Britain not being allies. That's a big one.
Yeah, because the show starts in 1944. 45? It's right after World War II.
Literally, the show starts with World War II ending.
Yeah, it's right after World War II, and then she goes back in time 200 years, so it's 1746 or 45. I'm sorry, I forgot when World War II ended, okay? I know it's
we weren't there.
46, 45. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, isn't it also a year after that, too?
Something like that.
Yeah, so.
It's not right after, but anyway.
The show doesn't take place during that time period that much. That's the reason why.
Yeah, she touches these. Basically, she accidentally gets transported back in time, and it is through magic. It's not she developed a time machine or something like that.
Yeah, it's not H.G. Wells.
No, not at all. So there are magical elements to this show, but it's definitely not like Game of Thrones. There is definitely magic in the world, but it's a historic drama.
Well, that's why I say it's the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, because it's more about politics.
Yeah, there were magic elements, but they were always kind of in the background for a long period of time, like the Whites and Dragons.
Yeah.
Except for the Percy story. That's all. That doesn't.
Even then, though.
That's not until the end of season 1.
Exactly.
So it's a lot like season 1 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And until the 5th episode, there's not a lot of stuff that the characters aren't really doing much. Mm-hmm. You're just meeting them and you're just kind of there. And then by episode 5, things start happening. And now the characters are we got to do this thing. And then we got to do this thing, do this thing. And the way it starts connecting these dots.
Yeah, it's really cool. Because you have these just rounded stories about people. And then there's the history storyline with the Jacobite army.
The British
Rebellion, I guess, will be the army.
Yeah.
All these things. I don't know. Makes history interesting.
It definitely does make history way more interesting when you think about. You also get to see the lives of these people and why they want the Jacobite rebellion to come back. Because they want. No, Kitty, not on the desk.
Kitty's trying to get under the computer.
I demand to control the entire video. Meow. But it's not just that you're with these characters and they're just we want a Jacobite rebellion, but you start to really realize why they do. They have this way of life that the British colonists don't understand, because Britain was very uniform and you have to wear these clothes and drink these ports and you have these stations in life.
Yeah, they're very uppity. And it's you think France was uppity, but Britain was just as uppity back then.
Well, there's a reason they kind of hated each other.
Yeah, so and it's really you see early on how the British they kind of think of Highlanders as like savages.
Yeah,
not literally, or no, they don't like.
They kind of do.
They kind of do.
Because there's this one part where one of the characters comes in, Dougal.
Yeah.
And he's talking to, I think he's a lord.
Something like that.
A British lord, and he says, if you came into my castle and and he says all this stuff with this like Scottish accent, he kind of uses these words, and they sit there and go, I have no idea what that barbarian just said. Oh,
yeah, like
they literally all start laughing like, oh,
yeah, yeah. So it's just like their way of life is so vastly different.
Yeah, it's their people. They keep saying this too a lot in the season, near the end of season 1. We're a people of the land. We live off the land. We live with the land.
Mm-hmm.
We work hard. We live hard.
Yeah.
Whereas the British are very much like, you have to be neat and proper and speak English the correct way.
Yeah, and that's why when Claire gets transported, because they're in Scotland in 1944, and then she goes back in time. Obviously, she's in the same place. She just goes back 200 years. So she's in a Scottish territory. Scottish?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scottish territory. So she's seen as, they don't know if they can trust her because she's British, and she's an Outlander, hence the show name.
Well, that's one half of the reason.
Yeah.
The other reason is because she's in the wrong time.
Well, yeah.
So she's an Outlander, not just literally in the country. She's from outside the land, but she's from outside this time.
Yeah.
So she's 3 degrees removed more than anybody else is.
Exactly. So they're just like, who is this chick?
Yeah, like even in the second episode when she gets teleported back in time, she's like, I understood.
No, first episode.
Oh, well, maybe it is. She goes, I understood these customs. No, it's in the second one.
No.
It's because when they're back at the castle.
I thought you meant when she gets transferred back in time in the second episode, but that's
not what I was saying.
Got it.
When she gets transferred back in time in the second episode, there's a line she says where she goes, I understood these customs because of my understanding of history, but they didn't come as second nature to me. I was practicing them and I still didn't know how to do them perfectly. Yeah. So it shows like not only does she not understand Scottish customs, but she's trying to do these older British customs that they don't really fit her. Because there's a lot of things like the way women were treated back then and how people had their different stations, and you weren't supposed to speak out against certain political groups. Like there's a part where she goes, this is their land and we're taking it from them. He goes, excuse me, I thought this was the king's land. What treasonous words you have. Whereas today you could say that and it's like, like,
it's like, oh yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. But like back then it was like,
literally
whose
treason.
side are you on? Yeah, because like, her beliefs start to waver with like who she thinks is right and wrong, just like in the world. So like I don't know, like all the characters are just really like complex, and you really get to understand them the more the episodes go on. It's just a really well written show.
It's well written. It just takes a bit of time to get its footing is the problem. Yeah. It's kind of hard to get through those first couple episodes if you just watch it randomly.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't even know how to describe the show. It's very, I do, but like it is obviously a very like adult show for obvious reasons.
It's on Stars for a while.
Yeah, it's on Stars, and it's about a book. It's based off of a book series. So it's very, it's definitely like Game of Thrones.
When I say it's Game of Thrones, I mean like it's very political based. It has a little bit of magic in it. And
there's romance in it too. Like there's definitely a lot of romance in it. Well, so if you're not a romantic person at all, don't watch this. But if you don't mind it, it's definitely worth it because there's so many other aspects to it that make it good.
The thing is, the reason I say it's girl Game of Thrones is because Game of Thrones was very horny at times. It would have a lot of like breasts and you would see people having sex, but it was more of a physical desire thing. There wasn't a lot of love involved in it. Yeah. Whereas this will show you sex way more than Game of Thrones does. Yeah. But it's very love based. Yeah. Like there was an episode where 3 times in one episode, 2 characters have sex, and we were both like, okay, can you like calm down for a minute, show? Like,
yeah, it's like again. Like I'm good. Like I've seen everything from these actors. I've seen it all. Yeah. Like it's very. There's a lot of sex scenes, especially in the first season. Because I think honestly, like I think there are just like a lot of sex scenes in the book at first too, but I think they might have been like, let's have some sex in the show. Let's bring people in a little bit.
Yeah, let's look at the guys interested. Yeah. But to me, every time I saw those sex scenes, it didn't make me think of Game of Thrones sex scenes. It made me think of those books that middle-aged women generally read, like, and then Paolo with his rippling muscles took me in his arms, and as he held me gazing into my... That's how I felt sometimes when I would see those scenes. And
except they were definitely more realistic.
They were more realistic than those shows, but that's why I say it's girl Game of Thrones. Yeah. Because the way it's written is based off what a girl wrote as a book, and so it feels more like those kind of books, whereas Game of Thrones was just like, and then he had sex with her. Yeah, and then he, like, pounded her. Yeah, it's like... And that's it. Yeah. It just ends there. Whereas there's more of a scene to the sex. Right. You rarely, I don't even know if at all, you really see characters, like, you don't just, like, see, like, a character just having sex with some random chick. Like, you rarely see that, if at all. And even if you do, those characters come into play later. Right. Exactly. So it's not like with Game of Thrones where it's just like, here's this random sex scene, and we might propel the plot with it, but we'll see. Half the time, I think they propel the plot, but with Outlander, it's like, it's romantic. It's romantic sex usually, but it's still realistic and not like inaccurate, unlike many, sex scenes. Like, it's still realistic. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's closer to realistic. Yeah. Because it doesn't just start with, and then they took their clothes off and started having sex. There's always like a build up to it, like happens in real life a lot of time. Don't watch this with your mother, is what I'm saying, but watch it with your partner. You could watch it with your parents, but it would be like Game of Thrones. I watched a couple scenes with I watched a couple scenes with my mom. Luckily, it was later in the show, but I was like, oh no, her boobies are out again. That's how Game of Thrones is too. Yeah. So that's why I compare it to Game of Thrones. It's not as bad. I mean, it's easier to watch with your parents, but don't watch it with your parents. Just don't do it. That's what I recommend. And honestly, this show got darker than Game of Thrones did way faster. It really does. When I say darker than Game of Thrones, I don't mean that any scene was darker than Game of Thrones. It has the same violence level, I would say. But they waited a few seasons or books in George R. R. Martin's case to get to this like really dark place, whereas this gets to a really dark place in season 1. Yeah, they really off the bat are like, they pretty much let you know like they're not going to censor things. Whether that's a good or a bad thing. Like there is a trigger warning, basically, I guess if you want to call it. There's like sexual assault in the show. So that's something I think viewers should know when they go into it, because full disclosure there. Full disclosure. It's because it's very violent. They just like show the brutality of the time. Yeah, they don't hold back. Yeah, they don't hold back. They don't try to paint it with this rosy color. Yeah. Everything they do is 100% believable, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I could be pulling this out of my ass, and the writer could have made all this stuff up, but it feels like she really did her research about these time periods in these areas and how people, like different classes acted. Yeah. It does seem that way, and I think she did, because she's been writing these books since the 90s, and she's still not done. I think she's got like 2 more. This is like George R. R. Martin. Yeah, pretty much. But except she's consistently coming out with books. I think she's written 8 so far. That's more than George R. R. Martin. Yeah. So yeah, she seems like a very intellectual woman who like knows. She does her research. Yeah, she does. Kind of like Rick Riordan did with all of his Mythology series. He really does his research for those. Yeah. And it's a really good show. Highly recommend. And if you want to get into history or use this as a history lesson show, you can use certain bits and parts where they talk. You don't have to. If you're a high school teacher, I wouldn't recommend showing the whole show to your students, but you could show certain scenes of them like having conversations about political things. Yeah, for sure. Like in that 5th episode when she shows up and they're all in that room. Yeah. It would be a good way to show how like the British used to look down on people. Yeah. Because Scots and Brits, they are like in modern day, unless you live in the UK, you don't think of them as that different. Yeah. But you watch the show and you're like, yeah, they were different people. They were like from different worlds, basically. It was literally the difference of like, it felt like an oceans of difference. And then that made you realize why they were so terrible to other people. Yeah. Because if Scots were considered barbarians to them, I know. Think about someone who doesn't even speak English. Exactly. Like the Scots would speak Gaelic, but they still understood.
Usually knew English.
They
too.
knew English, but their
Yeah.
English was considered broken and
and
ruined.
wrong. Like they weren't speaking it correctly.
And I like the way that these
polite.
characters speak in the Scottish way so much. I'm like I'm trying to use these words for like a future Game of Thrones character.
Yeah.
Where it's like I cannot know. I cannot.
Yeah, like there was a Kenna and what did they say a lot? They say you can, which is like you know. Bonnie.
Yeah, Bonnie, like Bonnie Prince, Bonnie girl.
Which is funny because it's like Bonnie Prince, like the pretty. Why are they called the pretty prince? I always wonder.
Because for a Scottish, she's a pretty boy.
Sure.
And then when you do meet him later in season 2, you realize why.
He's got that like pompous like. Up in hoity-toity. It's like
he's not even pompous.
Not
he's
pompous.
Just an idiot.
He's just like got the fanciness because he's a prince.
And he never was in Scotland. But that's season 2, and I can't wait to finish season 2 and talk about it because season 1 was good and it ends really good, but season 2 we're only 4 episodes in. I'm like,
season 2 I think is more heavy story, history and story based.
History,
and politics.
It's very political.
It's very political.
Season 1 is a lot more action.
Yeah.
A lot more action because like it's the Scots fighting against the Brits a lot.
Yeah.
Like literally the first episode has a scene where she's like, they're gonna ambush us there. And it's like, how do you know that? I heard about it because she heard her husband say about it in the future.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you just get into this fight. Oh my god, it's so good. It gets so good.
Well, I'm glad you like it so much and that you're excited for the rest of of season 2.
I am so excited for season 2. Is there any last bits you have to say about this to get people to watch the show or come back for video 2?
Not really. I just think everyone should watch it as long as you're okay with like the intensity of the show.
If you're okay with Game of Thrones intensity, you'll be able to handle this one. Okay.
I'd say though, there is an episode of like the last episode of the season is extremely hard to watch. So again, just like trigger warning for SA. So just letting you know. I guess that's a spoiler, but I just feel like inclined to tell people because like I didn't know when I watched the show, so it is like it's intense. It's worth it.
If you know the scene with Ramsay Bolton and Sansa, it's that levels of bad, but more graphic.
Yeah, they don't cut away. And I remember we were talking about it, you're like, how did people not get mad at the scene? How did they not lose viewers or whatever? And it's because it's in the book too.
No, I know it was in the book.
No, I know, but like I think people who read the book were more prepared. They knew it was coming, so it didn't like freak people. It didn't like cause all this controversy. Like unlike with Game of Thrones, where that scene wasn't in the book because they hadn't gotten there. They haven't gotten there, so.
No, it was in the book. It was a different scene in the book.
Yeah, I don't know.
In Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they added some.
Well, they changed
Sansa and Ramsay scenes.
They changed the characters that they did it to.
Exactly.
So.
So it is. Yeah. On that note, I don't know what else to say.
It is a good show.
Upper.
Just be prepared for that last episode of season 1.
Yeah.
Every other episode is very manageable. There might be a time or two where you're like, that's a bit much.
Yeah. But I'd say like nobody under 13 should watch this period.
Yeah.
But
nobody under 13. If you're 13 or older, I think you could watch it, but I still would wait till you're 16 or 18.
Yeah. It's obviously meant for adults. It's an R-rated show.
Yeah. It's really dark, but it is a good explanation of history, and every character feels very unique.
Yeah, they're so real and fleshed out.
Even the small kind of comedic relief characters are still like people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's one character in particular who he's not that important at first, but then he gets so important and he's now kind of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
And he's named after.
I love him.
He has the same name as a character in my favorite book series of all time. So which is very, very hilariously coincidental, but I love it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. He's great. He's great. That's all we'll say. Great characters in the show.
But if you think this video is Bonnie, please punch that like button, hug that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.